in the land of woo woo, and just just entirely obscuring everything. And they're some of them are more annoying than others, but nonetheless, the whole situation is come out later, and you're going to have to face the blowback of having been taken along with everybody else that promulgated that material. Now, the David Wilcock kind of people that are always pushing stuff off into the far future, saying, basically someday, the blah, blah, blah mass arrest, someday, the sun will shine, the birds will sing, yada, yada, yada. Those check, and this is where the Polar Express, and it's actually a global Polar Express, a GPE. So that's when the GPE hits us. All right, so that's when there's going to be a polar mass that's shoved down from the North Pole across pretty much all of the northern hemisphere. So all the way from Siberia, all the way around through Eurasia, through the Caucasus, into Europe, across the Great Britain, etc., and then all across North America, Canada, etc. We're going to get this cold pushed down on us. Now, years ago, the data had said that this particular winter would be brutal. We would have fatal kind of conditions. We would see pictures arising of, cabins in the snow, only there would be several cabin heights of snow on top of the cabin. So it'd be like, 15 meters, 45 feet, big numbers. Here, obviously, we're only going to see that on houses built to take those kind of loads. So some places in the far north. So anyway, though, this is going to be very unusual for us in our experience because we're going to get the corresponding warm flood into the Arctic as well as the Antarctic. And that's where we get into some interesting things there. So, all right, so the function of hurricanes in our normal environment for the last, say, 300 or 400 years, since the last mini ice age, the function of hurricanes is to evenly distribute heat from the equator to the poles to even out the whole thing. So we don't have a scorching equatorial area and really frigid everywhere else. And so hurricanes do that, but hurricanes started breaking down as the atmosphere started going through changes associated with this getting into our new galactic environment, causing the sun to become quiet, become more quiescent, get more energy around the sun coming back to affect us. It affects our atmosphere. The hurricanes aren't working the way that they used to. So now we have the emergence of these atmospheric rivers over these past 20 years that just dump and dump and dump. This is also a heat exchange process. And then we're now going to have these polar expresses the last few years where they've come down in fingers into the northern hemisphere. And now we're going to have the first of a whole series, year after year after year after year, as part of the ice age, of these global polar express things, okay? And so that's when the whole of the planet gets, we'll just do it this way. Okay, so we're just going to say that this is north and that's south, and it's usually cold, all right? We understand this, that it's cold up here, cold down there. The reason it's cold has nothing to do with sunlight, does not have anything to do with the refraction of light off of the ice mass. That's a wishful thinking on the part of physicists not looking very deep into this. The reason that this is the case is because this is the North Magnetic Pole. There's a big magnetic influence within our planet here. The magnetic influence produces these centrifugal and centripetal vortices within the air that reach out into space, okay? And we actually get the magnetism causing an energetic transfer that causes the air to be exceptionally cold on the poles. Absent the magnets, you get little tiny poles, the way that we see on Mars. Ours are much larger, relatively. Mars orbit also intrudes in this, so there's other issues. But anyway, so what's happening here on our planet is that we're going to have these polar expresses that are going to take and push air around in a way that has not been typical for us. And so that's the equator, and that's the equator. And so what's going to happen is that the cold air masses are going to infiltrate down this way, and they're also going to be coming up this way from the South Pole simultaneously. So we'll have, I don't know to what degree it's going to be on the South Pole because we're dealing with summer down there, or summer up there, it doesn't make any difference. So there may not be the same level of effect. However, the whole of the northern hemisphere is going to be affected by the cold being pushed down onto the land masses, which will in turn, they'll get more cold. The effects down here are mediated by the larger landmass of Antarctica and some of Australia over here, Africa coming down, and South America. All right, but the effects down here are going to cause even more ice buildup on the western side of Antarctica, floating ice. So they're going to get big storms down there that will cause more ice to build up as a result of what we're going to be seeing here with the polar expresses. While that's going on, the warm air is actually going to be also circulating and coming back, getting cold and coming back down this way. So we're going to have polar warming simultaneous to northern hemisphere below 50-degree cooling. And the landmass on the, and up here we have no landmass at the actual pole. It's a floating ice cap. So the effect is going to be the opposite of what's happening on the south, and we'll actually have ice melt up there, but we'll have ice accumulate on the northern hemisphere, on the land masses. So this is year Wu. All right, so in year Wu, we are going to see the location of the first of the new glaciers. So somewhere up in the northern hemisphere, over these next few weeks, beginning probably on the 11th, so it's supposed to hit us on the 10th or the 11th. I didn't know that at the time that the data, I was running the data sets. I didn't know it was going to focus on weather. And in fact, what may be electrifying and emotional and forced change and stuff may relate to nothing at all to do with the weather. But simultaneous with it, we are having this weather event. So at the moment, it seems proximate to the emotional release, then maybe there's going to be a big emotional release as a result of the weather event. If so, then prepare now as much as you can, because it might be considerable to cause that level of emotional tension over those days and that level of emotional release. That's why, it seems like the forced change part of it, extending on for some months, seems that it's probably much more economic or political or so on. But the weather is also going to be participating. So this is part of the fog of Wu, but we do get we get value out of the Wu, okay? Because there are people like myself in the Wu business that have been bitching and moaning about the unscientific climate approach that the powers that be are taking for years, and we've been able to provide data. I purchased the whole database, every single damn thing they had at the U.S. weather. I mean, for the whole planet, everything that they use. So I have all the raw data. So anytime they come up with some weird numbers and say that they're now going to look at tree rings this way and equate it to temperatures, I can go back and look at the data and say, that's what they're doing. That's what they're trying to hide. Because they're trying to hide the fact that we're going into an ice age, the sun's changing, and that we're getting into periods where we're going to have a global polar express things. If the emotional release that I forecast coming up on the 11th is related to weather, then boy, we need to really be getting ready. I'm doing everything I can to stock up and get prepared for a number of days of potential snow and disruption. But other than that, I didn't think it was the cause of the emotional release that we've got going. Anyway, though, there's a lot more information coming out about Antarctica and some more information about Mars and some information tying the two together. But my weather's good. I've got to get some stuff done. So live long and prosper. There we go. and see you.